Okay.
Namaskar, sir. Namaskar.
Good evening, sir.
Sir, very good evening. Very good evening, sir. Welcome.
Namaste, namaste, namaste. How
Good
are you?
evening, everyone.
Pranam, ma'am. Pranam. Regards to you, ma'am.
Now,
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, ma'am.
Ma'am.
Good evening.
Good evening,
Regards to you, ma'am.
everyone.
Good evening, ma'am.
shall we start? Culture, ma'am.
Sujata, please proceed. It's
Okay, ma'am.
6:30 already.
Okay.
Vishwanath,
Good
ma'am.
evening.
Namaste.
Namaskar, sir. Namaskar.
Good evening, all the participants. When March winds blow around and around, leaves and pollen fall to the ground. When March winds blow, what can we do? Dance in the wind and fly kites too. When March winds blow, where can we go? Off to the park to watch the flowers grow. When March winds blow, what can we see? Birds building nest up in the tree. When March Saturday comes, what can we do? We can learn something new by joining iSpell Forum too. So today we will learn more about poetry, history, mystery, and chemistry. Once again, a very warm good evening to all the participants. I am Sujata Bahel from CG Forum iSpell. First of all, I welcome our chief speaker, Mr. Salesh Mr. Sir, our chairperson, Dr. Kirti Tiwari ma'am, founder and general secretary of iSpell Forum, Dr. G.A. Ghanshyam sir, convener of the forum, Dr. Archana Singh ma'am, president of the forum, Dr. Harpreet Garcha ma'am. Our today's topic, as I already mentioned, is history, mystery, and chemistry. Poetry is a type of literature based on the interplay of words and rhythm. The main function of poem is to convey an idea or emotion in beautiful language. It paints the picture of what the poet feels about the things, ideas, concept, or even an object. So I would like to hand over the platform to Aishwarya Srivastav ma'am, who is the moderator of today's event. Aishwarya Srivastav ma'am is pursuing MA Literature from Government Digvijay College, Rajnandgaon. Her hobby is singing, creativity, traveling, and she is fond of learning different languages. Ma'am, please welcome Aishwarya ma'am.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Good evening, one and all present here, our chief speaker, dignitaries, and my fellow mates. It, it's a glad welcome to everyone present here for this enlightening online lecture on poetry, history, mystery, and chemistry. Before proceeding to this, I just want to say some lines of Robert Frost. Freedom lies in being bold. Half the world is composed of people who have something to say and can't, and the other half who have nothing to say and keep on saying it. The best way out is always through. So after proceeding, I am heartily welcome our chief speaker, Mr. Sailesh Kumar Mishra, sir, who is Assistant Professor of
Thank
English,
you, ma'am.
Government Chandula Chandrakar Art and Science College, District Durg. Sir has written so many poems in different language like Hindi, English, and Chhattisgarhi. Sir is more into poems and is fond of different genres. So today, Sir will tell us more about the history, mystery, and chemistry of poems. Sir, hand over to you.
Thank you, ma'am. First of all, my regards to respected Kirti ma'am, respected Archana ma'am, respected Ghanshyam sir, my dear Chandan sir, and my blessings to all the growing literary birds who are contributing their best for the betterment of this field of knowledge. Today we have this topic on poetry. We will see different aspects. We will share, we will discuss different approaches, different forms of poem, and how does poem or poetry influence the other fields of literature, other fields of culture. Usually we know that poetry, that particular phenomenon, is so far mystified. It is not fully decoded. If you ask the definition of poetry, so far no one can claim that any particular definition can totally cover the different aspects of different features of poetry. Today, when we have this discussion on poetry, I will try to have two approaches of poetry. One is of Western world and second one is of our own country. Poetry itself is a contribution of culture that we have got after we have developed our civilization. Somewhere I have read that poetry is something that comes just after the Paleolithic period, just after the human being came out of caves, after drying painting on the rock walls, they started expressing their views mixed with their ideas, and it was the form that today we know as poetry. In the Western world, when we go to talk about the identification or the recognition of that particular phenomena with the help of few words, we have many great poets who have given their definitions to this particular genre of literature. We have names like William Wordsworth. He says it is a spontaneous overflow of powerful feeling. When we see this definition further, another part of this definition says it
It's network problem.
Okay.
Wordsworth says it is overflow of spontaneous overflow of powerful feeling. Why cannot it be full of thoughtful feeling? Why cannot be it is cogitative feeling? It has some meditation. Why is it recollected? Why it is not collected in tranquility? So we'll have to see two things here. If something is recollected, it means it had been collected earlier. Then it is recollected. Here I feel that poetry is not only related with somewhere hard. It is somewhere, if it is recollected in tranquility, it means here poet wants to say that some consideration over the feelings, over the emotion has also been done. Because if it is recollection where some effort is seen or some effort on the part of the poet is felt. So when we go further, I will have this base on the definition given by Wordsworth. Certain poets are here in India who have also given some grammarians are there like Acharya Bhama, Acharya Jagannath, Pandit Ambadar, Vyas. They have given their further. We will have the words of those great masters on poem to carry on this discussion. Now I come to S.T. Colby's words. He says, poetry is something that is written in the best words, and those best words are put in the best order. Some aesthetic approach is seen here. Best words in best order. Best words may be easily considered by us that if they have some meanings, they have some significance, they may be best. But best order, so we have to see here that some arrangement of words are there. That arrangement may be better than the other arrangements. If that level of excellence is got, then that particular literary production may be called poetry. Then we come to P.B. Shelley. He says it is record of the best and happiest moments. Here may be some difference also, because we may feel cannot a poet be sad when he writes poem like Balmiki. In our Indian belief, we believe that powerful feeling may be happy also and it may be sad also. In sadness also we may write poem, and it happens. So further we will have this discussion on this definition given by P.B. Shelley. He says it is an order where best and happiest moments are shown, and they come out of the happiest and best minds. So in this way, we will believe that in the happiness, poet may have very passionate feeling, powerful or uncontrollable feeling, like William Wordsworth has says, spontaneous overflow. So somewhere one hint comes to us that poem is not simply something like project creation. It is something special where some uh, substantial or powerful feeling or some overpowering feeling comes in the mind or in the heart of the poet. Then he or she starts writing. Now, in the other period, when we see some Western poets and masters on literary creations like Matthew Arnold, he has his very distinct definition of poem. He says poetry is at bottom, it is criticism. Criticism means where our intellect is applied, not heart. If it is, if poetry is criticism, then here role of heart is more powerful than the role of feelings or role of heart. Then we come to T.S. Eliot, another great master. He says, here he contradicts with William Wordsworth. He says, it is not setting free. Poetry is not setting free emotions. Here we are not setting free our emotions. We are not releasing our emotions. Like Wordsworth has said that spontaneous overflow. Here, T.S. Eliot says that it is not setting free our emotions. It is not releasing our emotions. He says it is escape. It is an escape from emotion. So we'll have to think over it. How can it be an escape from emotion? What happens when the poet escapes from his emotions? In the second part of his definition, he further says, it is not an expression of personality. Somebody may say that poet writes what he feels, what he thinks, but further he says, it is not an expression of personality of the poet. He says, it is an escape from personality. So we'll have to think over these words. They are the very cogitative, very meditative words. They are not the simple ones, because it is the creation, it is the definition given by T.S. Eliot. What has he thought over the rules of these words, escaping, not releasing? Then we'll have to see. If we believe on the words of T.S. Eliot, how can we justify his definition? He says, we'll have to imagine that we all are poets, and we are going to write down on a particular feeling that we have in our heart. Suppose I am very sad, some incident has taken place, and I am very much overpowered by sadness. I have to write down on something, like that Cronch Pakshi had been killed and the poet had started, the first poetry has come out. Then here we have some feeling, very powerful feeling, and we have to write it down, or we have to tell it to somebody in oral form, in oral literature form. I'm just discussing the T.S. Eliot words. T.S. Eliot words say that it is an escape from emotion. So what I believe, why has he said like this? Until unless we speak our feelings, speak out our feelings, until unless we share what is going on in our heart is very heavy. And the moment we share that thing with somebody else, then we are free of that particular emotion. We feel very much relaxed. Similarly, personality, habits make a man. Suppose if some idea has been in our heart, or it is in our mind, and we have not shared it with anybody else, we are keeping it in our mind, and day by day we are cogitating over it, we are meditating over it, we are just thinking over again and again, considering. Then keeping in mind, it will start changing our personality. It may be frustration also. Some incidents has taken place in our life and we are overthinking on that particular issue. We are not discussing it with anybody. And what has happened to us? One day, that unshared, untold emotion that is in our brain, or it may be in our heart, it has marred our life. It has made us totally frustrated. We have gone in frustration. We have gone into the such unwelcome condition. So what happens? We go to psychologist, and what that doctor, what that psychiatrist suggests us, tell what type of feeling do you have? What is going on in your heart? And the moment you release that particular emotion, that is changing your personality, that is changing your thought process. The moment you speak it out, then you feel relaxed. Day by day, that problem comes down, and you, after some days, after some moment, you feel yourself totally out of that feeling. In that way, we have to see the definition given by T.S. Eliot. We have seen some master's words. Now, another word. We go to Aristotle. Aristotle says, poetry is an imitation. It is an imitation of nature by means of words. It may be oral or written. So there has been great discussion on this issue. So far, as I have told, poetry is mystery. Further, we'll see how can it be called mystery. Different beliefs are there, different thoughts are there, but we all have our own ways. Nobody can. Poetry gives us a poetic license. That poetic license gives us all type of joy. Nobody can contradict with us. If I like a definition of T.S. Eliot, I may go with that. If you like William Wordsworth definition, you can go with that, or you may have your own definition. You are free. Poet is free. And this is the beauty of this genre of literature. After that, I come to Indian masters who have given their paribhashaएं of kavita. When you come to Indian field of Kavya Shastra, the beliefs are totally different. You will be surprised. Wordsworth says it is power overflow of spontaneous feeling. T.S. Eliot says it is a escape from personality. S.T. Collins says it is the arrangement of best words in best order. And Aristotle says it is imitation of nature. But in India, the great masters of language, what do they believe on the charisma of this particular genre form of literature? I will first start with Pandit Acharya Vishwanath. Very beautiful definition is given by Acharya Vishwanath. And in Indian Kavya Shastra, we have very subtle type of definitions. Somebody believe that it is the charisma of words. Some masters believe it is the charisma of Vakya. Some masters believe it is the charisma of Vakya and Arth. Somebody believe it is the amalgamation of Arth and words, the Sabda and Arth, and like this they go on. So we have here 4 definitions of 4 Indian masters on Kavya. When we amalgamate all these definitions, so a new type of definition will come in our mind, and it will tell us that poetry has its own beauty. It has its own endless approach for creating something of our heart or something of our mind. So now, the words of Vishwanath, Acharya Vishwanath. In Sanskrit, he says, Vakyam rasatmakam kavyam. Vakyam, Vakya jo rasatmak ho. Vakya that gives us some rasa theory. Go to Anandavardhan. What does Bharat Muni says? Janma of rasa in our heart. So the Vakya that gives us some ras here is in sense of essence, or it may be Alaukik Anand. Alaukik Anand means transcendental happiness, felicity, where we forget ourselves, where we forget our own day by day worldly mortal ideas. It takes us to some other world. Acharya Vishwanath says, वाक्यम रसात्मकम काव्यम. जिन वाक्यों को सुनने से मन में रस आ जाए, भाव आ जाए, रस से भरा भाव, वह काव्य है. Here the definition emphasizes on creating rasa in our heart, in our brain, and we are enjoying a particular type of felicity. Second definition, another great master, Pandit Jagannath. Pandit Jagannath says, Ramadiya arth shabdah, Ramadiya arth pratipadakah sabdah kavyam. Here, first definition of Vishwanath says Vakya that gives rasa, and here in the second definition, Pandit Jagannath says not Vakya. He says Ramadiya arth pratipadakah sabdah. Sabd that gives Ramadiya arth. Ramadi means beautiful meaning. As Sujata madam had started with some aesthetic sense type of signification of poetry. The same aesthetic type of approach is attached with poetry here by Pandit Jagannath. He says Ramadiya arth, the words that give us some beautiful, some heart pacifying feeling or idea, those words are kavya. Another master, Pandit Amba Dutt Vyas, another field of poetry. First one was of Vakya, second one was of Sabd, and third one, you see, Pandit Amba Dutt Vyas. He says, Lokottar Anand Data, Lokottar, Lok se itar, away from the world, Lokottar Anand Data, the Anand that is transcendental, that is away from this world. Don't get yourself captivated with these worldly affairs. Let it be transcendental. Let it be of some other world, heavenly world. He says, Lokottar Ananda Data, Lokottar Ananda Data, Prabandha. He's not telling words, or it is not telling Vakya. He says Prabandh, the total creation, that you may say poetry in totality. After reading all the lines, all the words, all the Vakya, whatsoever, Lokottar Ananda Data, the felicity, the happiness that we get of some other world, reading what? The Prabandh. The Prabandh means the total creation. Kavya Nam Yatu. That is Kavya. That particular creation, that totality, creation in totality, that gives us some transcendental happiness. That is Kavya. क्या आनंद है. आप पढ़ते पढ़ते आपका मन, it will become like anything. You will forget what is going on. So this is the beauty of Indian Kavya Shastris. You should feel they have given some different type of approach. Another great master, fourth one. Numbers are there. Mammat, Vasudevanand, Ramchandra Shukla, Hajari Prasad. Numbers are there, but I have chosen these four. Acharya Bhama, he says, Sabd Arth Sahito Kavyam. Kavya is where there is amalgamation of Sabd and Arth, and that may be in synergy. If Arth and Sabd both are justifiedly arranged, and whatever the reaction, whatever the result they produce, that is Kavya. So these four definitions are there. We have our Western definitions, these Oriental Indian definitions, and now we have about 8 to 10 definitions, 2 more definitions that I will sum up with these two. Jaishankar Prasad says, Kavya is anubhuti of Satya. It is Satya anubhuti. Does it mean that other genres of the literature don't display Satya? But here the Satya means we have to go to Aristotle. He says reflection of imitation of nature. And what is nature? Satyam, Sivam, Sundaram, whatever has been created by God, that is nature, and it is Satya, it is the utmost beauty. The same thing here is told by Jaishankar. It is Satya Anubhuti. Ramchandra Shukla, another great essayist, he says, Kavya is Anubhuti of Jivan. Jivan Anubhuti means if you feel your life in after reading some particular lines or some particular words, and if you feel something of your life, then that is Kavya. So in that way, we have to see the master words. The great gurus have given us some beacon type of lights, and with the help of these lights, we have to go on. So this is the beginning, what Kavya is. Now, we have given this, we have decided this title, it is History, Mystery, and Chemistry. Chemistry is not that of science field. Here, chemistry is something like psychological, emotional relation between the reader and the poet. So, I will go that some history should also be related with today's discussion. Generally, anthropologists believe that this human life started in Africa somewhere. So the credit goes to these African people that some first poetry might be created there somewhere in African jungle when they were hunting animals for their livelihood. So this is called wild poetry or jungle poetry. No record is there for this type of poetry. But for having some substantial reference with this hunting poetry, they related with pyramid text about 2000 to 2300 or 2500 BC before Christ. Means about 4000, more than 4000 years back, when we go to Egyptian civilization, there we will have some references where poetry is believed to be on the wall of the pyramid. But here they are all inscriptions. So when we come to the real history of literary creation, that is poetry, so we have to go to Sumeria, somewhere in Mesopotamian civilization, Iraq, present day Iraq. So there, Gilgamesh, the Epic of Gilgamesh, it is believed that it is the oldest form of poetry that still we have in our day-to-day life, present life, and we can refer it. So oldest form of literary creation, that is Sumerian creation, and here it was in form of epic. Again, it was the Western belief somewhere related with the English language poetry. Again, we have to come back to our own country, our Bharatvarsh. Kavya, it is not bound with single particular language. We have to see all the world language. So whatever the thing just I have spoken about the history of poetry, here the first evidence that we have of this textual literary poetry is Gilgamesh, Epic of Gilgamesh, and that is Sumerian, Sumerian contribution to the world literature. Now we come to India. We have to go back to Rigvedic period. All the rituals of Rigvedic period. In China also they have shrink like some religious poetic creation. They believe on that. So in India, what we believe that Rigvedic rituals, that hymns, those are there in Rigved. They are the first poetic creation presently available with us, and we can refer them as our base of learning something related to poetry. Now it has been very long journey. Then the ages change, poets change, beliefs change, uh, different types of approaches change, and today we have free verse. No rules applied. Whatever you like, however you like, you can express your feeling. Then, if we carry on this talk on poem, having belief like having belief on the poem like free verse, then what about the poetic devices? Here in this discussion, there may be students of PG classes or English literature. They may have questions, sir. If we have free verse, no devices, then what are the significances of studying these things in our curriculum, in our courses? Why should we study them? Yes, we should study them. We should know what are they and how do they help us in understanding free verse. Free verse is the result of all these things. Free verse has come at a very later stage. Earlier, it has all been rhythmic, or it is figurative, or we may say it is aesthetic approaches to create poetry. Now we have come to free verse. So before knowing free verse more, we have to know about the poetic devices. We have to know about the figures. We have to know about the rhythm. We have to know about the rhyming scheme, and this or that, and the different forms of poetry. So now we come to this particular field that is a bit abstruse to understand. It gives lot of pain to appreciate a poem when we go in the technicality of poem, and there the total beauty of poem is marred. The moment you start talking about assonance, consonance, resonance, or we talk about imagery, then you talk about the postmodernistic approach, or then we talk about the modernistic approach, then romantic period approach, or classical approach, or this or that. Then the Atma of poetry is killed. It happens. But shouldn't we try to know about the poetic devices? No, we should know. How can we know? When I had been in my PG classes, I tried to know more about these devices, and at that time, I surrendered before all the persons who could help me, and I had very much hard days, and I could not get very substantial help to understand these devices. But the efforts carried on, went on, and still today, I try to read these things and try to understand what I have learned about these things. New ideas have come or have not come. So, dear students, when we talk about poetry, we have to talk about these devices also, because these devices are the angas, they are the organs of poetry. I will give you one very beautiful theory. On the basis of that, you can escape from all these sorts of criticism. That is reader response theory. But I will come to that theory at the last of this discussion. Reader response. That will save you from any particular attack. So you can save your skin that if you apply reader response theory, then all these appreciations of the poetic creation will not give you pain, and you can enjoy the poetry. So, dear students, we will start with the chemistry first. We have discussed history. We have to go back to the hunting poem of Africa. Then we have to come to Sumerian civilization. Then we have to come to Aryan civilization. We have to go to Rigvedic period. Like that, at least we may have some base of the beginning of poem. If you go and have translation of Rigvedic rituals, you will feel that those hymns were written in poetic form. Now, we start thinking about what are the elements of, what are the substances of poem that create poem. Right from the definition of poem we have seen, it is something that produces aesthetic beauty, that gives aesthetic beauty, a bit different from prosaic creation, literary creation. So what are the things that give aesthetic sense to poetry? What are the elements uh, uh, that make poetry aesthetic and figurative and rhythmic? So rhyme, I hope we all know rhyming scheme, especially when we study sonnets. In studying sonnets, we come to know about this rhyming scheme, especially, and when when talk about limerick or haiku like things, we try to learn about rhyming scheme. Rhyming scheme is tukbandi, tuk, where the last word sound meets with the next word, last word of the next line. Like twinkle twinkle little star, how I wonder what you are. Ra ra. So it may be चारू चंद्र की चंचल किरणें खेल रही थी जल थल में, स्वच्छ चांदनी बिछी हुई थी अवनी और अंबर तल में जल में थल में, like this. The tukant should be there. There should be the rhyming agreement between the last sounds of the sequencing line. So rhyme must be understood properly. And when we especially study sonnet system, sonnet cycle, when we come to Shakespearean sonnet or when we go to Petrarchan sonnet, then we have this ABB like thing or ABAB. So when you study the rhyming scheme, always keep in mind in some forms of poem, rhyming schemes are the soul of the poetic creation. Rhythm. Rhythm is more important than rhyming. There are different blank verse like creations. That blank verse does not have this rhyming scheme, but it has rhythm. You have to know what this rhythm is. What is rhythm? It is a set pattern of movement. Tuck, 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 tuck. If this open nair like music is going on, if a particular speed is maintained, so if this is happening with twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder, you will see that a particular speed is maintained in every line of this particular poem. Or another example we may give, whose wood these are, I think I know. His house is in the village though. Will not see me stopping here to watch his wood full of snow. So you'll see a particular movement is there. That particular movement, rhythmic movement, makes this particular line more lucrative, more fascinating, full of beauty. So this is all happening in these two lines, and these two lines are attracting you. Rhythm must be there, whether rhyme is there or not, but rhythm is the atma of poetry. Another, imagery. When you write or read a poem, immediately some mental pictures should come in your mind, and if you close your eyes, you should feel that daffodils. If you go to William Wordsworth poem, and if you read the lines of the immediately you go to the valley area where the daffodils are there. Valley is full of daffodils. So your mind will give some flowerful valley picture, whether you have seen daffodils in person or not, but you may have seen it in digital form, and it will create some mental picture in your mind. So this also happens. Imagery comes in mind. Then poetic devices, figures of speech, like simile, metaphor, alliteration. Most important is onomatopoeia. The sound effect comes. So these figures of speech, when they are pronounced with the words, immediately this sound comes in our mind, like clinking of chains, clinking, or you may have zoom, boom like words. When we use boom, zoom, like when we speak these words, immediately some sound effect comes in our mind, and we don't concentrate towards the words, we concentrate towards the sound. So sound effect must be there in the poetic lines when the poet right? So here, when we talk about the free verse, we are free from all these limitations. But in traditional poetry, imagery should be there, rhythm should be there, rhyming should be there. Then different devices like we have just discussed, simile, metaphor, or alliteration, or, or consonants, they must also be there. Different other figures of speech, different other. You may take it from other language also. So to give the beauty, if you are writing Hindi poem, if some word like Valentine Day poem, somebody has written Valentine. We don't have words Valentine similar words in Hindi. So the word the same day or the same hello like word we have used in Hindi. So the beauty of the Hindi is not marred. It has some different distinct type of approach and it pleases the mind of the poet. So now it is all innovative things being done in the writing poetry in modern time. So we have to see these substances. Then meters are also very important. The most important one that we usually listen it is iambic pentameter. We different meters are there: monometer, dimeter, trimeter, tetrameter, penta, hexa, hepta, octa. Different meters are there. We have iamb where one is unstressed, then stressed, like dadam. If you read any particular book on poetics, you will have this iambic meter. What type of feet is there? Iambic. One is stressed, one is unstressed. Then they give example like what word should we use. यहाँ पे बच्चों एक काम कर सकते हो आप, you can use your own mother tongue words also. I will give you some example to keep it in mind. Like अब iambic को याद करना है, क्या करना? In some book I have seen one example is given, that is dadam, da, dum. Then the opposite of it, iambic's opposite, it is chalky. It is dum da, dum da. One is stressed, one is unstressed. Then we have dactyl, anapestic. We have spondy. These are different forms of feet that we have in creating poetic literary creations. So these meters are there. Chand. In Hindi we have chand. Doha, Soratha, Rola, Chaupai. In the same way, the Western poets also have their own different types of poetry. And those all different types of poetries have their different types of forms, like sonnet. If you compare sonnet with ballad, ballad is something else. Then LG is something else. Ode. So, dear students, if we have to understand poetry better, we have to know the nature of these different forms of poetry. We have to know what this sonnet is. We have to know what this ballad is. Because if you want to understand the culture of Western countries, of which literature you are
So your
studying.
voice is breaking. I'm not able to.
Hello. Is my voice not clear? Okay. So what I wanted to tell, that until unless we know the specific features of these different forms of poetry, of especially English, it will be a bit difficult for us to understand poetry in better way. And why should we have this better understanding of poem? Because we have to appreciate the work of the poet. It is must for passing or qualifying in the exams. First, that is practical thing that we have to do. So we have to know the analysis of the poetic diction, poetic creation. We have to know how is elegy different from ballad, how is sonnet different from ode, how is this haiku different from limerick, how is this limerick different from epic, like this, what is lyrical poem, what is not lyrical poem. In that way, we have to be very much clear about the basic features of the particular form of the poetry. As I have given some examples of Hindi kavya, Doha, Soratha, Chaupai, Rola. If we know the qualities of merits of these different kavya prastutiya, then only we will be able to understand the poem in the better way. So this is all chemistry of the poem. Now I come to another very substantial word that is given in the topic. It is mystery. Why do we have this mystery word in our title? Mystery is there because after discussing all these jargons, all these technical terminologies, all these isms, all these philosophies, we come to one point where the particular poet and the particular reader have their own approach of writing the poem and understanding the poem. Here the role of that particular mystery comes. We have two particular words, line break and poetic license. Poetic license, in a very simple words, I should say the license to violate the rules of grammar. The grammar had its structure, subject plus auxiliary verb, then object, then other words, and the series will go on. So if we write as per the given structure of the grammarian a particular language, then we will go to the prosaic form of the language, prose form of the language. So how should a poet be benefited having this license? As driving license we have, we can easily ride on a bike or car and we can drive the way we want. So the same way the poet has this license. And I believe if this license was not given to the poet would be somebody different. And today we would be discussing the quality of a poet in some other way. So this poetic license is there that makes the poet original one. And how is this originality maintained? Because this poetic license gives us freedom to experiment to make experiments with the poetic creation. If you want to use adverb in place of adjective, use it. If you want to use any particular form of the verb, whether it is subjunctive mood or it is imperative mood, use it. You have your freedom and you can justify it. If somebody tells you have made a grammatical mistake, you will tell, no, I am a poet and I have this line. So in that way, you are free of all limitations that we have so far discussed. Then, should we not know the rules of writing poem? Should we not know the different qualities of poetic devices? We must know. Unless we know of these devices, unless we have the mastery over these devices, you cannot play with the poetic license. You cannot properly use poetic license. A license is used by somebody who is trained. Driving comes first, then license comes. So in the same way, knowledge of these devices comes first, then the poetic license freedom comes. So what I believe, Sujata ma'am, please give me hint when should I stop. Actually, I may not cross this limit of the timing. So because you slowly I'm coming to the end of my this telling of the words. I wanted to tell poetic devices, elements, substances, they make poem. Okay, thank you. So in that way, we have our own way of writing the poem. Now, I come to three other things that I want to share here with you all. How can we appreciate a poem? We have discussed about the elements, we have discussed about a bit of history, we have discussed about a bit of mystery also. And now, something is to be added with this mystery. How can it be mystery? Mystery is in the way we don't have any fixed definition for poem. Maybe Acharya Bhama, maybe William Wordsworth, maybe T.S. Eliot, maybe Matthew Arnold, but what I believe, no definition is complete. If we talk about earth, then we leave sabd. If we talk about sabd, we leave vakya. If we leave about vakya, we will leave somewhere musicality. If we leave somewhere musicality, we will leave somewhere rhythm. If we lose somewhere rhythm, somewhere rhyming will be missed. And if something is achieved, thoughtful process will be missed. So if we give more emphasis on heart, then brain will be overlooked. If we give more emphasis on brain, then heart will be overlooked. In that way, somewhere or else, we will leave something. So what I believe, that poetry has its beauty in being unlimited, it being free of all definition. There is no fixed definition. You have your own definition and enjoy it. This is the beauty that you may have so far this poem is concerned. Now, further, we should see, if we want to appreciate poem, what should we do? The thing that I have learned from my gurus, my seniors, and I have still been learning, if you want to enjoy a poem, read it time and again, time and again. For enjoying the poem, I'm talking about completing the syllabus. Completing syllabus is something else, and enjoying poetry, appreciating poetry is something else. So here we are discussing about our own way of enjoying the poetry. What should we do? Actually, when I had been in Kendriya Vidyalaya, we had been given training to teach poem that 4 times we have to read the poem, 4 times. To teach class 11th and 12th students in CBSE or ICSE, if you are going to teach poem in your classroom, so you have to read 4 times poem. But here I will go with some other approach. If you want to enjoy poem, if you want to appreciate poem, read poem at least the number you need to understand. Suppose if reading once you understand the poem, that is sufficient. Suppose in one reading you have not understood the poem. Understood means your understanding. I'm not talking about the understanding of the publisher or the guide. That some guide has given some other type of understanding. No, I never tell my students to read the understanding of somebody else about some particular line. Here, our masters have also given us a clue to explain the poem. I will tell you. Read poems till you don't have this confidence that you have understood the poem. Then, after reading the poem as many times as you need, your idea or concept of understanding the poem has come. Second thing you will do. When you are reading the poem, after every reading, try to find out the words that are giving you some pain of understanding. Suppose some new words have come. Immediately note it down and try to know the meaning of that particular word. In that way, all the words, those are unfamiliar, those are stranger for you, their meanings have come in your mind. It means when you are paraphrasing the meaning, when you are understanding the meaning, some idea has come. Whether right or wrong, I don't tell. It may be that poet has thought of some other, poet has written the poem with some other idea and you are having some other idea. I will give you an example of stopping by woods on a snowy evening. If you read the poems in the beginning 3 stanzas, the poem will give you some other meaning. But when you come to the last couplet, the idea is totally changed. So in that way, you improve your own understanding, and the moment you have understood the poem, try to write down your own summing up understanding. It is your understanding that you have got after reading as many times as you need. Then the understanding of the poem has come in your mind, your own appreciation. And how will you appreciate? If idea has come, immediately the mind will give you one imagery, one mental picture will come in your mind. Suppose I will give you example of one poem, that is If, Rudyard Kipling. If you have read this book, out of all poems, I give my full regard to the poem. If you read this, if, so many conditions are given by the poet, but one by one, when you go with these conditions, you feel that they are the requirements of getting success in life. So after reading the poem If, or after reading the poem Where the Mind is Without Fear, one idea comes at the last. Where the Mind is Without Fear, it is in the text of our graduation syllabus. So you have read the poem, your idea has come, now you are free to write down your own explanations. Don't be bothered whether the teacher who is going to check your answer will give you marks or not. If he's a good teacher, he will 100% give you out of 5. Don't be bothered about getting marks, because the teachers who are checking your answer sheets, they are the masters, they are the gurus, they know all the merits and demerits of your presentation. So it is not at all your headache. Now, second thing, reading as many times as you can and understanding the poem in your own personal way. Second thing, if you are going to write a particular poem, what steps should you use? What should you do to write a poem? Here, my idea is a bit different. Don't try to be a Nobel laureate in the beginning. Be your original self. Be your own ideatic person who has his or her own idea. Suppose your idea comes about your pen, write a poem on your pen. If you have one idea about window of your house, write about window. Write about the pet dog that you have. Write about the book that you have. Write about your mother. Write about your father. Because these are the very relevant things. These are the very destined things of your life. And every day you know about your mother, content is ready. Don't write about spirituality. Mummy is our mummy and we know a lot of things about our mummy. So content is ready. Only presentation is needed. Then go with your own presentation. Don't be bothered about these rhyming scheme and other things. Be free, feel free, write it down, but there must be rhythm. Don't forget rhythm. If rhythm is forgotten, then it will become prose. अब मैं एक उदाहरण दे देता हूं, इसको सुन लीजिए. कोई न्यूज़पेपर उठा लो, न्यूज़पेपर प्रोज में, और उसको थोड़ा लय में पढ़ के देखो. कविता ना लगे तो मेरा नाम बदल देना. आप उठा लो, एक मान लो मैंने आज एक उदाहरण के लिए एक मान लो मैंने इमेजिन कर लो कि मैं न्यूज़पेपर रखा हुआ हूं ये, और मैंने पढ़ा कि हाँ भाई यूक्रेन के ऊपर रूस की बमबारी जारी है और लगातार मिसाइलों से हमले हो रहे हैं. ये पेपर में छपा हुआ है. अब मैं उसको पढ़ता हूं, देखो अपने वे में मैं उसको कविता कैसे बनाता हूं. रूस की बमबारी जारी है यूक्रेन पर, लगातार हो रही है, नहीं है लगता डर. ये मैंने जोड़ दिया बाद में because the words are read, but it is your own way of creating this rhythm and this prose has become good. So dear students, in a very bold way, in a very brave way, go with your experiments. If you don't have dare to make experiments, you cannot be a poet. And if you don't have dare to make experiments, you cannot have good explanations of the poetic creation. So have this. And here, one thing will save you, because professors will attack on you. What have you written? Then say, sir, I have this poetic, F.R. Lewis has given me this license, or this Rosenblatt has given me this license, or Fisher Young has, Wolfgang Isser has given me this license of reader response theory, and I have applied it. What does this theory say? Reader has freedom to understand the thing as he or she wishes. So apply it. Enjoy it. Don't be chained with all these jargons or difficult terminologies. Know the things, but don't be slave of these things. Enjoy these things. Make your own creations, and it will certainly make you a person who is literature nerd, who is lover of the literature, or who may be a poet, who may be a literary personality in coming days. So in that, one more thing. I have talked about appreciating, I have talked about writing a poem. Then if you are a teacher, what should you do? If you are a teacher, how can you teach poetry in your class? So the set formula is, if poems are small poems, short poems, about 20 to 25 or about 30 lines are okay for one period. If you go more than 30 lines, then the beauty of your classroom teaching will be marred. So always have shorter poems are teaching in a particular period. 2 silent reading, finding out the words meaning, 2 loud readings. And after loud readings, your own understanding, no explanations. And how will you understand the poem? Making your own questions and answering in your own way. 2 silent reading, 2 loud reading. And if the poem is larger one, then cut it in parts. Cut it in parts of 20 to 30 lines. And the same method will be applied. And I hope some better understanding will come. So these are the things that I wanted to present before you. I don't know whether these things are sufficient or not, but whatever I have in my mind, just I have put it before you all. Thank you. Thank you to all.
Thank you so much, sir. Aishwarya ma'am, are you there?
Sharice, I have a request. Sujata, I have one request, please.
Yes, Chandan sir, please.
Sir, you have written so many beautiful poems. I wish you recite any one of it. Please. Your poem, sir. One of your poem we all want to listen, sir.
Yes.
One thing
Yes,
I confess.
Suresh, please. We'll all like to listen to
Uh,
you.
Ma'am, one confession is there. Usually I write poems, but I don't keep them in my mind. Usually after writing, I forget them. But one paper is with me. That is of my poem. The title of the poem is Life Never Waits. So
Wow.
it is a print. Life
Wow.
never waits. So I will just recite first stanza of this poem. Before I start, ma'am, I have regards to you, and whatever your words are there, those words are ordered for me. The same is with Chandan sir. The title is Life Never Waits. Life always gives us chances. Life always gives us chances and forces us to get the aim. The sound is always sweet that tinkles out of its frame. Frame means the limit that we have. Challenges seem perilous. Challenges seem perilous. However, we have to fight. Weave the inner treasure. To use it, we have to be right. If we are not right, if we are wrong, we will never fight for our existence, for our own name. The deeds done sincerely, the deeds done sincerely pay us with the golden coin, rendering our obligations, send us to the cloud nine. Being brave, free and fine makes our life full of fun. Never miss any chance, as time and tide wait for none. So these are 16 lines. Usually I write poem of 16 lines. So luckily this paper is with me. But whenever, ma'am, I meet you, I have my other papers, and certainly I will be happy that if I recite these things before you, you the people who are my guide, you are my gurus. So I'll be very happy to have your blessings in person. When I meet you, certainly I will go with more poems. And one line of Chhattisgarhi also, that is very close to my heart. Actually, that poem is not with me now, but two lines are always Apan daila kabho bulabe jhan. I have written, don't forget your mother. रो रो के ओहा तोला खिलाइस हवे, जग जग के तोला सुताइस हवे. अपन दाई ल कभो रुलावे झन, तोर दाई तोर देवता है ओला कभो भुलावे झन. दिस इज ऑफ 16 लाइन्स. एंड मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि शायद माँ के लिए कोई भी ऐसा शब्द नहीं होगा जो हम कहें और वो माँ के महत्व को समअप कर सके. लेकिन छत्तीसगढ़ी में मुझे लगा कि अम्मा के लिए लिखना चाहिए, तो मैंने लिखा था. कभी मौका लगा तो पूरी कविता आप लोगों को सुनाऊंगा. आज माफी चाहता हूँ, कॉलेज से जल्दी लौटने में मैं नहीं ला पाया, लेकिन भविष्य में निश्चित कोशिश करूंगा. Thank you, ma'am.
Beautiful, wonderful, sir. Beautiful.
Wonderful, wonderful, sir. Beautifully recited poem.
Very beautiful.
We'll plan to
Thank you, ma'am.
have a recitation sometime in future. You know, we invite all the
yes,
poets of Chhattisgarh, and then we have a poem recitation event.
Yeah.
Yes,
sometime.
ma'am. It will be pleasure.
Yes, yes, that would be wonderful. And we have such programs at National Forum, but we haven't had yet organized such a program in CG Forum. So that would be really very interesting. Yes,
Okay,
go
ma'am.
ahead,
Whatever
Aishwarya.
the things are, there will be there, ma'am.
Of course. Aishwarya, please proceed.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir, for your intrigue information. Your words are truly pure, and your knowledge of poetry is far beyond my imagination, I guess. And the definition that you explained were very well explained. I can't even say. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Now-
to all. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you to all, ma'am. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Namaste.
Thank you, sir. Now I would love to welcome our chairperson, Dr. Kirti Tiwari, ma'am.
Excuse me, Aishwarya,
Yes, ma'am.
you can invite questions first
Okay, ma'am. Okay.
from the participants.
Now questions are being invited. whomever is interested, you can ask questions also. Sir, I have one question, by the way.
Ma'am,
If
ma'am,
no
please.
other-
Welcome, ma'am. Welcome, ma'am.
Sir, I want to ask a question. Whatever the poet writes and the way that we understand the poem, like whenever we write something in our answer, as I'm pursuing masters in English literature, we are taught that how poet is explain the poem, whatever the poet is writing in his way, and we have to write in that way only. So, because what I'm trying to say is there are different perspectives of everything. Like, for example, life could be something else to someone, and I can explain it in another way. So, I'm just asking, ki, do you think so that's actually like we can write the answer or we can just write, explain the poem in our way? Will it be right or not? So, I'll get. I guess there will be some network issue.
Shailesh ji, question for you.
I think again there is some network problem.
Network issue.
Technical glitches are there.
Aishwarya, ma'am, I
Yes,
could
sir.
not get your question. Yeah, at that time, possibly my link was a bit
Yes,
distorted.
sir.
So
Yes,
I would request you to repeat whatever you asked.
to give the crux of the question of mine is it was that ki, whenever we write something, we write the answer or we explain the poem that we have studied is as per the view of the poet, not about not the way that we understand that. Because just have given example. For example, life according to someone is something else, and according to someone else it's something else. So could we just recite the way that we think? Is that right or not? Like whatever the
Uh,
poem is being written by the poet, we just
yes, yes,
want to write in our way, explain it our way.
yes, ma'am. Once the poet or the writer or the author has done the thing, created or written the things or spoken the things, it is not his property. Any cultural object is the property of the society. Suppose I have written a poem that the title of the poem is Life Never Waits. And once this poem is published or this poem is recited before you, now you have every right to keep it as the way you want. It is now fully up to you whether you are reciting the lines in your own way, you are understanding the poem in your own way, because I have not explained it. Certain lines are there. Possibly, life never waits. I wanted to tell something about the train journey. Train journey. Here, the life word is symbolically used for train. I have not written. It may be that in place of train, I have written life. Okay, and I have written the poem and I have given it to you. Now, when you are reading the lines of that particular poem, some ideas will come up in your mind. You will have your own understanding. You may think that it is not train. It may be that some examination was failed by the poet, and in place of this life, actually he wanted to do something about examination. Somebody thinks it is not about train, it is maybe about uh, aeroplane. Somebody says no, it is about life. Literal word life is there, and poet is telling about life. So now it depends on the different readers whether they have the symbolic meaning of the word life or they have the literal meaning of the word life. And as I have told you, newspaper may be recited also because you have your own freedom. जैसे मैंने कहा कि एक लाइन मैंने पढ़ा कि यूक्रेन, हाँ, रूस ने मारा बम यूक्रेन पर. अब देखो, रूस ने मारा बम. अब बम का देखो प्रोनाउंसिएशन पोएटिक फॉर्म में एकदम अलग है. रूस ने मारा बम, रूस ने मारा. You should say how do I pronounce the word रूस? Actually, in prose form, this रूस is रूस. But here, रूस ने मारा bum. Here, the emphasis is on ru and sa. I have written रूस, but you are now, somebody will say, रूस ने मारा bum. So, you are, or the reader is fully free to deal with that particular literary creation, whether the way, suppose I have recited this poem on internet and you have seen me reciting this poem, okay? You have seen me reciting. So you have one master sample piece of recitation of this poem. But go back to the days when William Shakespeare has written sonnet. We don't have any audio clipping of the way he had recited. So now you are free. You can recite the way you like, and you are free to understand the lines as you wish, as your understanding is telling you. No problem. No, one thing is very clear. You will understand in the peripheral way as the words are there. If I have written daffodil, then there would be something related to daffodil. If I have written daffodil, means some prevarication will come, some prevarication, some peripheral meaning will come that is related with one flower. It may be daffodil, और तुम कह सकती हो कि ये मोंगरा के ऊपर लिख रहे हैं सर, मोंगरा के ऊपर. डैफोडिल तो इंडिया में होता नहीं है, लेकिन कहीं ना कहीं एक रेलेवेंस रहेगा. आप बिल्कुल फ्री हो ऐश्वर्या जी, आप अपने तरीके से समझने के लिए. लेकिन here one thing always must be with the reader. Reader should also be justified. If somebody may ask, the poem is written like this and you have explanation of this, then how do you have this explanation? So justify your explanation. Okay, nobody will criticize you, but justification must be done on your own part.
Thank you
So this
much.
reader response theory gives this license to you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Sir, I have a question. How should we
Yes,
teach
ma'am.
poetry in higher secondary? Suppose I have a poem of Catherine Pye. I never can
Yes.
do it. The little kite said. So how should we teach? Read this one in this way, or I never can do it. The little kite said. In a rhyming way, we should read, or just in a normal way, poetic way. How
Yes,
should we teach it?
Yes, Sujata ma'am, I will give you one example and
sir.
you will decide your own way. Okay?
Okay,
Two
sir.
types of may I come in, sir, may I come in, sir, and good morning, sir. Two types. One is of nursery students and one is of 11th and 12th students. Okay? Your answer will be got by you very easily. Nursery students. Madam enters the classroom and students say, "Good morning, madam." Nursery student.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay? And
Yes.
the madam replies, "Thank you, dear students," because they are of nursery standard. The same good morning is
Yes.
with the same madam in class 11th. The students stand up and they said, "Madam, good morning." The madam replies,
And they
"Good
say,
morning, dear students." The same expression,
okay.
but the ways are different with their levels. So the same way, if you are teaching in 11th and 12th, let there be a bit standard form, because if you go more rhythmic, more musical, then maybe that the poem would be a bit melodramatic like expressions. So with primary students, twinkle twinkle little star, you have to act like this, because there you have to show this twinkling with your hands. But when you teach the same poem, Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, in class 11, here twinkling stars are not twinkling stars. They are the promising students. Then your body expressions, your posture, gestures will change. And similarly, your tone will also be changed. So with the standards of higher, yes ma'am, with the going high standards, your presentation styles will be changed, ma'am.
Sure. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Sir, good evening, sir.
Yes, welcome. Good evening.
Sir, myself Sophia Khan, and I'm
Yes, Sophia, madam.
pursuing
Sophia?
master's degree from a government J. Yoganandam Chhattisgarh College.
Good.
Sir, my question is to you. Sir,
Yes.
in Tradition and Individual Talent by T.S. Eliot,
Yes.
he's mainly focusing on poetry and the importance of tradition. Sir, how
Yes.
can we develop two things in the same time, sir? How can we give priority to both the things at the same time?
Here, yes, here, Sophia, I will give you example of your own way. Suppose you have in your family your papa and mummy, and you are there. Your papa mummy have given you some standards of traditions, and you have your own some new understanding of the society. So you have to make balance between your own new way of modern thinking and maintaining the tradition that your parents want on your part to be followed. Here, because when we refer T.S. Eliot for individual talent and traditional talent, individual talent will come up if you have the basic knowledge of tradition, and tradition always give you a platform for new type of thinking. So here we have not to ignore tradition, we have to make our own innovations, and the better way is try to justify your new thinking. Suppose your papa mummy ask you, why do you do this, then you have to make your own justifications. It is the talent of the individual to satisfy that tradition. You cannot fight against a tradition, you cannot revolt against a tradition, you have to make synergy with tradition, and it is on the part of the individual to make justifications, to make satisfaction on the part of the tradition. You have to make balance. On to me, if you ask me this question, I will tell you, keep your individuality, but try to honor tradition. Make balance there.
Yes, sir. Yes. Sir, one more question, sir. If you don't mind, then I will ask.
No problem, Sophia.
Okay, sir. Sir, apart from these two things, he also emphasizes the need for critical thinking. Sir, I'm asking about the T.S. Eliot concept and traditional individual talent.
Yes.
He quotes, sir, criticism is an inevitable as breathing. Sir, what does it mean?
Yes, you should see. You, if I go on with your own statement that you have just given, that T.S. Eliot says that criticism is like breath; it will never stop. You imagine, just 2 minutes back, whatever the things you have spoken, your mind has started meditating over the same, whether I have asked the right question to the sir or not, whether the right answer is given to me or not. This analysis has started. Two types of things are now happening in your mind. You are analyzing your own questioning, and you are analyzing my answering. This criticism is taking place in your mind. You are criticizing your right decision to ask the question. You are also analyzing whether the question was right or not. You are also criticizing my answer, whether the answer pacified you or not. So this criticism is going on. The moment criticism stops, the development will stop. Sophia, the questions are coming up in your mind. It means you are criticizing your previous knowledge. Your mind tells Sophia, you need some more information on individual and traditional talents. So this criticism is what? Always you are in quest of getting more and more information. Being dissatisfied with the present status is criticism. That is what T.S. Eliot wants to tell. It is breath. Criticism will go on. Suppose now we are running with 7:45 now in evening, and we have now started thinking whether today's evening was successful or not successful. Madam Kirti has just said we will arrange. Madam Harpreet has just said we will arrange some new type of event where the new. Here you see, one idea has come in the mind of both the madams that something related to poetry must be arranged. Why? They have analyzed that some movement so far has not taken place in CG forum. So that too is a type of criticism. Criticism means analyzing the present status. Sophia, criticism is a process of thinking. Process of thinking is always going on, and the moment it stops, two things will happen. Either we will die or we will become insane. So criticism is simply the process of thinking that is happening in our mind, that is taking place in our intellect. And it may take place in heart also. Sometimes heart also tells us what is right and what is wrong. So this thought process is criticism.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Sophia. Thank you, Sophia.
Sir. Too good, sir. Your poetry is too good.
Thank you.
And we are glad to hear for the next time, you said.
Thank you.
Thank you.
this all credit goes to Harpreet ma'am and Chandan sir, Kirti ma'am. They have
Yes.
given me this chance to have my words with you all, and blessings and some more encouragement on your part. Thank you
Thank
to
you.
all of you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Are there any
Yes,
more
ma'am.
questions? I think now I can take up.
Ma'am, let me
There is no need of giving introduction. Everyone knows me. So let us come to the point, since we have heard Mishra sir and also the questions and all. So more important is the interaction. I'm Kirti Tiwari, everyone knows, and that's all about it. So greetings to one and all. Respected Ghanshyam sir, I don't know whether he is here or not, founder and General Secretary of ISPEL India, esteemed and dynamic President of ISPEL CG Forum, Dr. Harpreet Kaur Garcha, and very active and dedicated convener of CG Forum, Dr. Archana Singh, keynote speaker, Dr. Shailesh Sharma, sorry, Dr. Shailesh Mishra, and the moderator of the event, that is Aishwarya Srivastav, and coordinator, Ms. Sujata Bahal. I am very happy that these young people are coming up in CG Forum and shouldering responsibilities so very nicely. So it's and of course I also acknowledge the presence of Dr. Amrita Kasture, Rita Soni, Chandan Soni, and all our office bearers and well-wishers, professors and teachers who are here, research scholars, students from different colleges, and others who have joined from different parts of the country. It is indeed a matter of immense pleasure for me to chair a session in which a person like Dr. Mishra is speaking, because I know him as a very enthusiastic student of language and literature. And of course, now he is a professor also, but even a professor is always a student, as he himself has said. And the title, I will start from the title of today's event, which is very poetic. I liked it very much. And now I know, of course, I know Shailesh Mishra himself is a poet, and getting what is poetry from the horse's mouth is something unique, right? And he has chosen a very poetic title to talk on poetry. The use of assonance is very clear. Poetry, mystery, history, and chemistry. So all that tree, that sounds so nice. So this shows his creativeness also. And he has brought science and arts together to interpret poetry. History, we know, is about the past events connected with a particular thing or person. Mystery is something which is difficult to understand and explain. And chemistry is the interaction between people. And here you can say between the audience and the poet and all. So your talk has oriented us for a study of poetry. So very nicely, you have gone through the history of poetry by giving various definitions. Some of them are very popular also, but the way you interpreted them, you have chosen Wordsworth's definition, Arnold's, T.S. Eliot's, Aristotle's, the Greek master. Then you have also drawn, knowledge from Indian masters, the Indian aesthetics, And you have also commented upon the ras and bhav you insisted on, and you have given the significant names which are students, in a short program like this, one can't go to a length beyond this. So the students can themselves study those masters. So the history part was quite interesting. Then you have also commented upon how to enjoy and explicate a poem. One should know about the various rhetorical and literary devices that a poet uses. And that gives a different charm. If a student or a teacher knows about all those devices, he would better, or he or she would better understand the poem and can write its appreciation or teach a poem. Then the mystery part, you said, is there because of the poetic license that is given. And you also have provided insightful comments on a number of passages which you selected for the occasion. And you have in this way well oriented not only the students that are present here, but I would say the teachers also very nicely. I somehow feel that every subject is different in few respects from other. Therefore, the methodology that we follow to master it has to be a little different, as you have said about under the captioned chemistry. So you have told about few general matters that one should keep in mind while reading poetry. And in this way, you have taught science and art of appreciating poetry. Now, gone are the days when poem is considered as just a piece, devoid of any other context or other things. So this is because of the change in the critical attitudes. A poem is no longer to be read as an inscription on a rock, devoid of its origin, context, or locale. So when we teach any work of literature, we want to know about the historical background and the autobiographical background, and then we come to text. The poet, seen as an inhabitant of a lonely tower or lost in the music of his thought, is not at all appreciated today. A poet is not one who is freed from the responsibilities of life and is away and writing poems. Actually, poets are also human beings, and they are speaking to other human beings, and that is communication. So the language he or she uses is a social artifact and also a tool. If we recall poets like Shakespeare or Yeats or Blake or Kabir or Tulsi, they were all people speaking to their men, with whom they are surrounded. They were trying to communicate with men and women who were like themselves. So we would agree with Derrida that institutional or socio-political space of literary production does not simply surround works. It affects them in their very structure also. So a student of literature, we should feel that element of the text on our pulse. And that is why when we do that, we get interested in the Irishness of W.B. Yeats, or the Juhalaness of Kabir, or the atheism of Shelley, or the way Eliot and Tulsi converse. You have very well talked about how to appreciate poetry. right? And you have given various practical tips how to read it again and again, and then discover the meaning, and go and concentrate on each and every word, because words are the only tool that is there. The diction of any writer is very important. And words, we know the riches of English language. Words have so many meanings. So one literal meaning is not enough. Maybe in that constant it conveys some other meaning. So you have to find out the real meaning. So what I want to say is, appreciating a literary work or a poem particularly is not different from appreciating a person. We have to we like some or we dislike some, and we have the reasons why we like and why we dislike. So here I would like to quote from Ramcharitmanas 2 lines which are uttered by the Sakhis of Sita after they saw Ram and Lakshman in Pushpavatika. Dekhan baag kunwar dui aaye, vay kak shor sab bhanti suhaye. Shyam gor kak mam kah bani, bakhani, gagara anayan nayan babanu bani. So when they were asked about them, they told that, yes, we have seen 2 young boys, and they talk about their complexion. After that, they are unable to communicate, because they say that the tongue that is speaking has no eyes, and the eyes that see has no tongue. So it is better to keep quiet. So in these lines, even that silence is eloquent, and we have to discover such things, hidden things, because poems are not only the lines that are written in black and white. Poet like Mishra sir is also one of them. They are gifted souls that have a vision that they can see beyond what we can see. So and they want to recreate that vision. And it is up to our readers that how we educate ourselves and can relive that experience in our own minds. Then only the communication will be complete. So appreciating a poem involves reasons for liking a poem, or for that matter, not liking also. So that is what appreciation of poetry is. What points we appreciate and what we do not. And Aishwarya has asked about the reader's part. So the reader actually adds meaning to a poetic text. The poem is, of course, the cause of meaning, but it is not the only cause. It has to be understood in terms of our background knowledge of the poem. And we cannot understand it unless we do so in the light of our own experience. So in this way, a reader can recreate meaning in any poem. As sir has said, once a poet writes, it all is up to the reader, how he takes it, right? Then a poem is made of words, just as a portrait is made of colors, or a piece of music is arrangement of sounds. So when we talk about a poem, we have to see the images. The images are created by words, word images. So we have imagery and symbolism while dealing with many poets. So it is, a poem, while talking about a poem, you have to talk about the images and the metaphors or the figures of speech he uses that become symbols and icon, emblem and exemplum that have visual appeal. But this visual appeal is of a different sort. It is an abstraction, not like as we see in painting or other arts. Then there is still more subtle and deep level, as sir has also explained, which is rhythm. Rhythm is a product of meter and rhyme and of many other effects, which sometimes even the poets do not know. And here I would also like to share that what I have seen, that while reading or teaching the poem, what is done nowadays is just reading out the lines, telling the meanings in general, and then move on. So this cannot be teaching or reading poetry. So much is involved in appreciating poetry. As sir has said, so many literary devices, then which give the aesthetic sense, then all sorts of meters and all. How many of us, the students and the teachers, are teaching before starting any poem? We complain about the time, we complain about other things, they say, and we just start the text. So before that, we should either have a bridge course, or in our introductory lectures, at least we should give some awareness. That is why when I was chairman, I have introduced the first unit, so that the figures of speech and other such elements of poetry or drama, prose of all forms should be studied and taught compulsorily, because it is in a syllabus. Although even if it is not mentioned, a teacher and a student ought to pay attention to these facts. Then the matter doesn't end here. A real poem embodies a poet's life's experience. It is an intense moment of revelation of life's truth, which he has seen, the joys, the sorrows. And just as a formula in maths or a sutra in Sanskrit embodies more than what we see, similarly, a poem also reveals truth as we go on reading it, right? That is why, Western criticism in the later part of the 20th century, it moved from the poetics of writing to poetics of reading. And if we have that in our Sanskrit critical theories, they have developed the theories of Karyavritri Pratibha and Bhavvitri Pratibha, means the creative and the appreciative talent. So if a poet has to make efforts to create a poem, equally important is it on the part of the reader or the student to become a creative reader, means to become a very sensitive reader. Previously, in the classical criticism, writer was given the only importance, not the reader. But now things have changed. So now we have archaeological criticism, in which writer's text and the sources of experiences of him, they are taken into account. And we also have eschatological criticism, which analyzes, examines, and evaluates, and then arrive at a different meaning while reading a poem. I am very happy, and I am of a confirmed opinion that after listening to Dr. Mishra, all the participants, including myself, will be able to appreciate any work of literary art in a better way, especially poems. So you have really given us and talked about the abstract entity, that is poem, and you have spoken about the acoustic aspects also, such as meter, rhythm, and rhyme. And finally, you completed the task of appreciation by bringing together all the capacities. You have taught us how to compile it and bring together all the capacities that are we have developed during the program, the students will also take care to use them. And with this background, you will be, all of you, as I said myself, will be better equipped to study, appreciate, and teach poetry. So congratulations, Dr. Mishra. Congratulations, the organization. The moderator and all those who have worked behind the scene. My very dear student Nurul Hoda, who is never seen in picture, but he is always there. He is the mystery of ISPEL, hidden talent. Of course, everyone knows him, so I thank him and congratulate one and all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Thank you so
Namaste.
much, ma'am.
Thank you.
Now I would like to
Ma'am,
invite
Nurul is
Archana.
the history. Ma'am, Nurul is the history, mystery, and chemistry of ISPEL.
Haha, everything.
Thank you, Nurul sir. Thank you.
He is part of history. He is part of history also, because some people are leaving in between, but he has been there from the first program of ISPEL India till now.
Right, ma'am. That's why I'm saying he's the history and the mystery, because nobody knows about him, and then the chemistry, because everything, all the ingredients, everything is
Yes,
all
he
due
has
to him.
Yeah, very, very true, Harpreet. He has a beautiful chemistry with all the teachers all over the country, and the scholars also. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now I would like to invite Archana ma'am for honoring of certificate. Archana ma'am.
Yes, yes. Nurul, could you please unfurl the certificate, please? Nurul?
When is our next program? And then the lady.
Online. When is it? And the timeline display Shailesh Mishra. Today, and we have and